I'm Aakriti. I'm a marketing professional with Wipro. So it's been about 2 years in the organization for me. Although I see myself more so as a marketer still than an IT professional. Although most people, when they hear I'm working in Wipro, just assume, oh, IT. And I'm like, okay, go with that flow. But yes, prior to this, I've done my MBA. I've also done my bachelor's in business education as well. And just had that flair for marketing, I think, right from my undergrad days. And that's where I eventually groomed my career towards. Originally, I'm from Lucknow. And while my roots are Punjabi, growing up in Lucknow has made me a full fledged foodie. And I love all things Lucknow. And I think that's the place I call home. I guess life has a funny way of coming around to getting you to do things. So, HPE, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, is actually one of the recruiters reached out to me right out of undergrad, and they wanted me to interview for a role for a business analyst. I personally did not really see a fit, but I was like, it's a new opportunity. I wanted to move to Bangalore, so I went ahead for that interview. And it blew me away. That selection process was just so much fun. And in fact, looking back, it was two females, very senior executives who took my interview. And something about that whole interaction, the discussion, and what seemed like to be on offer for me in terms of learning opportunities made me take that job. And I came into that with no real perspective or understanding of the tech industry. In fact, one of the first few days, I was literally sat down with somebody who's a subject matter expert, and he was explaining this is a server, this is storage, this is networking. It literally started from there. But I enjoyed that stint so much. I learned to appreciate that everything you see is actually built on tech. There is so much infrastructure that goes behind the smallest of things, and that's what made me appreciate technology. Formulate your thoughts, to have an opinion. Just having an opinion is such a big thing that I don't think our education system is really teaching you proactively. But as a part of that college, I get got to do that, and I would say that was my first and the biggest learning. That it's okay to know facts, it's okay to not know facts, but you need to have an educated opinion around things. That was learning number one. Learning number two is you need to have amazing people around you. If you don't, find them, get them somehow or the other, because you are only as valuable as your network. It almost determines your net worth growing up. Because now when I look back, even though I've done a postgraduate, those undergrad friends, I can turn to them for anything, and they're all in great places. We share life experiences, we share stories, referrals. So that's the way you grow. So those were my two strongest learning of my formative years. Then coming to the MBA's journey, I would say I learned to write a lot, because MBA is a very stressful period of time. There's just so much to do. You're not actually in control of your own time as well, because I had classes from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. So you can see how crazy that can get. Uh, and for me, writing became a source of introspection as well as almost therapy, you can say, because I could now get more so in touch with the thoughts that perhaps were swimming in my head but were unstated. And that's when I even started journaling, started blogging a little, forayed a little into that, explored my love for words as well. And I realized that writing, like now when I look back at all that content, I realized that writing is a way to get in touch with yourself. One thing I really hate about us women is that we just don't want to speak up. It's time to change that. There have been numerous studies. I don't want to even name them out. I know you know what I'm talking about when I say that. Raise your hand, be that voice. You may have a point that maybe doesn't make 100% sense, but it makes 80% sense. There are men out there who are raising their hand when they understand only 40% of that they're talking about. But unless you voice out your opinions, you're not even going to know whether they were right or wrong. You might be sitting with the best ideas in the room, but just because it's a room full of men, you're intimidated. Maybe you feel you have less experience than them, even if it's a diverse group. Speak up. It's okay to be wrong, but don't let yourself be diminished by others around you. Not at the workplace, but I felt burnt out at my undergrad. I don't think anybody goes ahead and says that, but I went ahead and burnt myself out at that young an age. And story behind that was basically in my third year, I was living in a hostel. That hostel life was pretty hard because even in peak winters, you were washing your clothes by yourself using your own hands. And the food was a mess, so you had to sneakily cook in your own room. And to add to that, I was heading the editorial board, which had been a pretty much dormant society up until then. And I was the person who was like, let's do something new now, and just got everything in motion, tried to mobilize it, which almost became like a full-time job now. When I look back at it, that's the kind of effort and dedication I've given to a job, which I was doing while being a student as well. And I felt so burnt out at the end that I almost was unwell, like giving my final exams. I had to be hospitalized for a couple of days because of certain medical issues. Yeah, it got that crazy. And that's when I realized, what have you done to yourself at this age, Akriti? This isn't something that a 17, 18-year old needs to grapple with. And that's when I realized it's very important to learn to say no and to be mindful in general in life. So you could do meditation, journaling, yoga, art of living. If you follow a certain guru, go ahead, do that. But find your space. Um, One thing, do not let tech scare you. Even if you're in a non-tech role, even if you're in a non-tech profile, I'm a commerce grad, gave up on science after 8th grade. Physics used to literally make me sick. I used to be physically sick before a physics exam. And here I am. I am loving the tech industry. So if you think, you know, it could be in a non tech role, but don't let the industry scare you.